Plenty of elements concerning this year's iPhone 17 models remain shrouded in secrecy. The iPhone 17 release date is actually one of them. To be fair, Apple hasn't formally disclosed any launch plans for its forthcoming phones or verified any specifics regarding handsets that are in the works. And that's run for the course at Apple, where queries regarding future product plans are often addressed with a brusque no comment. But in a sense, Apple has informed us when to anticipate new iPhones by dint of its track record of delivering prior models. Using that past release statistics and augmenting it with any speculations about release intentions, we can make a reasonably decent bet regarding the iPhone 17 release date. In fact, with the assistance of a calendar, we can very well point to a certain day and have a high probability of being proved true in a few months' time. Apple's iPhone release timetable won't always be so simple to anticipate if a report about the corporation spacing its iPhone releases in future years proves out to be correct. But with the iPhone 17 release, historical data on earlier iPhone releases offers a rather comprehensive picture. If you want to know when to anticipate an iPhone release, you'll be on relatively firm ground if you shift your focus to September. Apple obviously has a knack for releasing its next phones in that specific month. I'm not pulling that release window out of thin air. I've been covering Apple longer than the iPhone has existed, and we all know when Steve Jobs showed off Apple's initial shot at a smartphone. That was in January, by the way, with the phone itself appearing in shops by the end of June. But things have changed considerably since then, as you can see by glancing at the chart above that illustrates iPhone debuts stretching back a decade. Skim the column for the date in which Apple hosted their iPhone launch event, and you'll find 1 month showing again and again, September. There is an exception, of course, and it's the iPhone 12 launch, when Apple unveiled those phones in October. That was 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 epidemic, which threw a number of things into turmoil, including iPhone manufacturing. That isn't likely to disrupt the release timeline for phones. Prices might be another problem. Drilling deeper into that announced date data, it should become very evident that Apple doesn't only favor September for iPhone launches, it also loves to show off its new phones in the first part of the month. Given that there's generally a lag of 10 days or so between the time at which Apple announces its phone and when they go on sale, a launch event in the first part of the month ensures that the phones reach shop shelves before the end of September. That provides Apple a full quarter of new iPhone sales throughout the Christmas season, Apple's most significant quarter of the year. There are a few examples of iPhones that didn't arrive in September, however. The iPhone 14 Plus went on sale in October 2022, around 2 weeks after the rest of the iPhone 14 series. In 2018, the iPhone XR didn't go on sale until the end of October, whereas the iPhone X had its sales pushed back until November 2017 following a September 12 launch event. Those 3 models had something in common. They were the first time Apple has employed those exact designs for its phone portfolio. The fact that new varieties of iPhones occasionally experience staggered release dates might prove to be crucial this year, when Apple is said to be introducing an iPhone 17 Air to its portfolio. There's no concrete rumor claiming to disclose the iPhone 17 release date. That's not unexpected. We're still several months away from the iPhone debut as of this writing, and release date speculations tend to come closer to the event itself. That said, a survey of numerous iPhone 17 rumor roundups suggests a consensus date of September 2025 for Apple's iPhone event. Again, that doesn't seem to be founded on any particular rumor or discovery, but simply a knowledge that history tends to repeat itself when it comes to iPhone debut, and all historical evidence implies a September launch. With all that in mind, only a fool would be so bold as to forecast a particular date for an iPhone 17 release, and considering how many years I've been covering the iPhone, that idiot may as well be me. Let's assume that Apple is going to adhere to a September release timetable in general, with an eye on having the phone on sale by the end of the month. That would cut things down to the first 2 weeks of September 2025. I can tell you from attending my share of Apple events that Apple tends to favor scheduling its launch events on Tuesdays. There are 2 Tuesdays in the first half of September, September 2 and September 9. That initial date occurs the day after Labor Day in the US, and I think Apple wouldn't want to plan for a large launch event during a holiday weekend. That leaves September 9 as the most probable date for an iPhone 17 event, with September 10 as a possibility if Apple throws us a surprise and chooses to debut its phones on a Wednesday instead. Using the normal 10-day gap between the phone announcement and the commencement of retail sales, a September 9 launch day would imply that the iPhone 17 variants will appear in shops on September 19. That time frame would also presuppose that there's no staggered rollout for the iPhone 17 Air, which I'm not even naive enough to estimate about at this moment. I should emphasize again that these are all predictions based mostly on the way Apple's done things over and over again, and that previous success is no guarantee of future outcomes. At the end of the day, Apple might surprise everyone by selecting an entirely new date for the iPhone 17 release that has no relation to what the business has done in the past. All the same, I'm keeping September 9 free on my schedule. We'll see how true that is later this year. Next, 6 things Apple must add to the iPhone 17, or I'm not upgrading. I've been using the iPhone 14 for the previous 2 years, but now it's time to change it. I'm intending to purchase the next iPhone 17, but only if it contains these 6 things. 1. Better cooling system. One of the primary concerns I have with my iPhone 14 is that it gets pretty hot during prolonged usage. For example, if I play online multiplayer games like Genshin Impact for a lengthy duration, the back becomes so heated that it becomes a little unpleasant to hold. Unfortunately, this issue isn't specific to the iPhone 14. My buddy who owns the 15 Pro Max likewise gets the same problem with his gadget. I'm expecting the iPhone 17 series will arrive with an upgraded cooling system. In fact, according to the Chinese website My Drivers, all versions in the iPhone 17 series are slated to include an enhanced cooling system. Specifically, every model in the forthcoming series is expected to incorporate a vapor chamber heatsink. This will help transfer heat more evenly over a greater surface area, which would supposedly assist to lessen the danger of thermal throttling and enable the iPhone to give consistent performance. This technology is already employed in several high-end Android devices. However, another rumor says that the vapor chamber cooling technique may be confined to only the iPhone 17 Pro versions. Only time will tell which iPhone 17 variants will really receive this functionality or whether Apple will add it at all. 2. A better camera. Unlike its major competition, Samsung, which concentrates on high numbers by delivering a 200 megapixels camera in the S25 Ultra, Apple stresses picture processing, sensor size, and lens quality. That's why you'll find the 48 megapixels camera on the iPhone 16 Pro Max operating exactly as well as the 200 megapixels camera on the Samsung S25 Ultra. I believe it's time for Apple to elevate iPhone cameras to the next level, and if the rumors are accurate, they're aiming to accomplish exactly that with the iPhone 17 series. According to McRumors, all iPhone 17 versions will have a 24 megapixels front camera. If it's true, it would be a huge jump over the 12 megapixels front camera that Apple now provides. While the 24 megapixels selfie camera is believed to be present in all iPhone 17 models, the Pro variations are said to contain an all-new 48 megapixels telephoto lens. That would again be a huge boost for Apple, given that the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max versions included a 12 megapixels telephoto sensor. 3. At least 120 Hz display. A 60 Hz display in 2025 is unacceptable. Even inexpensive cell phones like the Nothing Sienna Phone 1, which cost roughly $289 on Amazon, include a 120 Hz display. But then there's Apple, still providing the same 60 Hz display, and I honestly can't even remember how long it's been. There were strong expectations that they will finally enhance the display with the iPhone 16, but they failed fans once again. While the Pro versions do come with a 120 Hz display, the basic iPhone 16 still uses the obsolete 60 Hz display. Although there hasn't been any official remark on why Apple still doesn't give a 120 Hz display in its lowest model iPhone. If the ProMotion promotion to be trusted, Apple deems a 120 Hz display to be something only pros require. Really? Apple. Anyway, a 120 Hz display in the lowest edition of the iPhone 17 is surely going to be the minimum expectation, not only for me, but for many other consumers contemplating purchasing the forthcoming gadget. Apple is likely going to suffer a lot of heat if they don't include a 120 Hz display in their basic models this time around. 4. Fast charging. Apple has frequently been accused for being hesitant to implement new features. Technologies like USB-C and NFC have been available on Android smartphones for years, but Apple has just brought them to iPhones in recent years. Similarly, rapid charging is another technology Apple has struggled to completely embrace on its iPhones. On the one hand, there are smartphones like the Motorola Edge 50 Pro delivering 125-watt charging. On the other hand, the newest iPhone models only enable 26-watt cable charging. Although specialists were able to boost the charging speed of the iPhone 16 Pro Max to roughly 38 watt during intense usage, that figure is still pretty low compared to what other smartphones are giving. I'm not asking for 100-watt charging on the iPhone 17, though it would be a wonderful feature, but Apple should at least attempt to enable 50-watt cable charging in the iPhone 17 series. 5. 8K video recording. Video recording has always been an area where iPhones have had an advantage over their rivals. Many recent smartphones, like the Vivo X200 Ultra or the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, have managed to exceed the iPhone in picture capture, but Apple's smartphone still dominates when it comes to video recording. The stability and clarity that the iPhone delivers for video capturing are unparalleled. All versions of Apple's current smartphone series, the iPhone 16, enable 4K video recording, with the Pro variants enabling up to 4K at 120 FPS. The next milestone for Apple will surely be enabling 8K video recording, and because the A18 Pro processor is capable of handling 8K recording, it shouldn't be a problem for Apple to integrate this function in the future iPhone range. 6. A new design. I've been an Apple client since 2016 when I got my first smartphone, the iPhone 7. It's now 2025, and although a lot has changed in terms of what Apple provides in its devices, one thing that's kept the same for years is the iPhone's design. Apple has been sticking with the same appearance year after year, and honestly, it irritates me. I urge Apple to break away from its usual design standards and offer the iPhone 17 a complete design redesign, akin to what Google did with the Pixel 6 when it moved on from the Pixel 5. The Pixel 6, announced in 2021, has an entirely redesigned design compared to its predecessors. Hopefully, something changes in the hearts of Apple's engineers, and they offer the standard iPhone 17 a new look like they're doing to the Pro versions. I realize the possibilities of that occurring are minimal, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed and clinging on to hope. So, that's all we know for now. We'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we have more information. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.